It's one thing to get an opportunity, Mike. I give people opportunity all the time. The difference maker is the determination.
I just laid out a plan of how I'm going to use relationships to infiltrate Keller. I feel like I'm an asset once I get in there, and that I will win the business over by closing loans. The success that I've had wasn't closing loans, it was getting to know the people.
All right, welcome to the show. Today we're joined by AWM branch manager Mike Cornachio. Mike joined AWM a couple years ago and quickly transitioned from managing his own pipeline to managing a very successful branch here at AWM. Mike is known for having a very clear and concise plan and the ability to build relationships within real estate brokerages, which is something very unique to the industry. So, Mike, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to get right to it. When you joined AWM, you were very clear with me. I remember the meeting we had, and it was, hey, I just want to work on my own pipeline. I want to develop my own book of business. I have no real desire to be leadership again, which you had been in the past. You had run a successful branch at another mortgage company, but you came here with a very kind of clear picture of what you wanted to do, but that quickly changed. What changed for you that led you then into the next leadership position with us?
Well, quite honestly, once I started originating here, I realized most of the tasks that I did in my previous branch, or what I supervised LOA-wise, you would streamline from the use of blend. I really didn't need the LOA to chase down the docs like I used to. And it kind of became a lot easier to close loans to where we weren't doing very much when we first came over, because it was easier to close loans here. So when we first came, originating was my goal. But I quickly figured out that, there's a lot of opportunity when you can get loans done quickly to do more.
So, but I believe there's more to the story than just the efficiencies of workflow and whatnot. I think there's something in you, this desire to be a leader. That's what I want to hear a little bit about.
Well, it's really simple. I just keep showing up. And I always say, like, you have to work 40 hours a week in this industry, and a lot of people don't. They like to work 40 or more, but if you consistently do it, and the opportunity really started when we started coming into this office. I went from having a large space with rent and not having those bills for a little bit was a nice rest. And then once I started showing up here, Nate Bennett was showing up with me, and we just started making calls. And then opportunity presented itself from showing up. It was as simple as that.
Yeah, and I think I don't want to jump ahead because that's really, to me, the center point of your success, that concept of showing up, doing the work that maybe others don't want to do. As a young adult, even, were you always the leader type?
I think so. Yeah, always gravitates, like, eventually. Played sports. I just went to work at a young age, probably 9 or 10 years old, I was working. So the second that I started doing mortgages and didn't have to physically make income and I could make it with my brain, I took it as a career, and I always wanted it to be a career where people would call me 10, 15, 20 years down the road. So when you view it like that, it gets a little bit easier than just trying to make a sale.
Yeah. But in that leadership position, there has to be something there where you say, hey, I'm going to get up, I'm going to go to work, and I'm going to help others get better at what they do. How's that look for you?
I just keep showing up, right? So
the common theme.
So right now, I like to, 2024, I said, I'm going to do things I don't usually do. I like to do kind of the opposite of what everyone's doing, because if everybody's doing it, it's too late. So I started going to a scripts practice at Keller Williams, and most recently they actually changed the teacher, and I show up at the scripts. There might be 3 or 4 new people every single day at it that I meet. And it almost is like exercising or brushing your teeth, to where I leave there and I'm 23 years in, my conversations are better, my sales are better. Quick story too, is we left there and the teacher said, hey, I want you to talk to a stranger today. I went right across the street, grabbed eggs, a cracked egg. The waitress came over and I asked, hey, I really like helping people in real estate. That was it. She started crying, and I got her phone number for a lead on a bill, and I brought it back to the brand new realtor that's practicing at scripts practice.
Wow.
So it's, people look like, why are you there? And I think that there's so much benefit in those things. It's the little things that happen at these offices. It's not the sales meetings. I'm one of those bring donuts guys, and I love when people say that doesn't work. So like bring donuts on Monday, bring them on Tuesday, bring them on Wednesday, maybe bring salad on Thursday. And at some point, someone's going to say, I feel bad for this guy. I want to know why he's here. I'm going to give him an opportunity. And then usually you take that opportunity and run with it. And I think maybe not the leadership skills, but the opportunity when it knocks, I'm always going to take it and run with it. So in this business, it's pretty simple because not everybody does that.
Yeah, you say that, but as you follow that, not everybody does that. And I think that's really the differentiator here and something that I want to kind of really dig into more. So for you, what would you say if you had to kind of look in the mirror, what would you say is one of the traits, one of the personality traits or character pieces of your character that really drive you towards that success today?
Well, first of all, I won't quit. So if it's a bad day, I'm still going to wake up tomorrow and try again. I go by the shaking every tree philosophy, where every day I'm going to do something different that's going to work out eventually. Some's long-term, some short-term. In the beginning, I made a lot of mistakes as a loan officer. I tried to be someone that I wasn't. And I tell people, be who you are, be more of it, right? You can take things from everybody, but still be yourself. So, if you're into the tech, go ahead, get on Bonzo, work it every day. If you're social, go out 3 or 4 more times, go to the birthday parties. Just be more of who you are when a lot of people try and see success and they try and be how that person is instead of being themselves. So I really am. I just try to be myself. I do make a lot of mistakes. I own it. That's probably the best, one of my best characters is I will sit there, tell you what I did wrong, and let's come up with a solution to fix it. I like to say that when I meet a realtor, what are we going to do when something goes wrong? Because it's not going to be perfect, right? You could pretend like it is. And even the Keller Williams account, I think I was really realistic about how many units we were going to close. Most people come in, they put a number of, we're going to close, 4 the first month. Well, I want one good one by the end of 3 months. And when you're realistic with yourself, then you can be more accountable. And that's another thing. I blame myself a lot for what goes on. I take responsibility instead of, it was the mortgage company. It was the underwriter. I always think that it's me.
But people really appreciate that, don't they?
They do.
I mean, in the end, they respect you for that.
Mm-hmm.
Pointing the finger, I think you lose, you sort of, you lose that confidence when you don't accept responsibility. And I think that shows well to the rest of the team as well, right? When they know that you as a leader are willing to accept responsibility, even though it may not actually be your fault, you're going to take one for the team, so to speak. I think that resonates with everyone. So let's take, okay, so I get it. It's really, this is about old school, hand-to-hand combat, showing up every day, putting in the work and providing that leadership. But I want to kind of go back to that moment, the first day you walked into this Keller Williams office, which, by the way, you've grown from a single office now to a second office where you are representing AWM now in both of those locations. Take me back to that first day. You talked a little bit about expectations. What was your thought process and what was your initial plan, let's say, for the first 90 days?
Well, I put it on paper. I met with the managing broker and his right-hand man, and I just laid out a plan of how I'm going to use relationships to infiltrate Keller. I've had to originate loans with realtors outside of being able to walk through the front door for so long that I feel like I'm an asset once I get in there and that I will win the business over by closing loans. And the success that I've had wasn't closing loans, it was getting to know the people. So my business plan was finding out, who's golfing and, who likes to take vacations and whose kid goes to what school. And so that by even after 3 months, we kind of had our feet wet, but by 6 months, we were full blown, going out with these folks, going golfing. And we did it because they're fun to be around. So you have to like who you're going to work with before you jump into these things.
Great point.
And we were identifying who's a good fit because that was always a theme when I ran a branch was not every loan officer is a good fit for a realtor. And to be able to give them options is great for their clients because you just can't be everything to them. So sometimes they need a different face or a different voice or a different style. And if you can provide that instead of being defensive, then you're just creating more value. They're going to stay with you.
Yeah. So let's stop right there, because I want to make sure, because people who are watching this, I mean, to me, I want to kind of lay this out step by step, because so many people fail at this part of the business. It's one thing to get an opportunity, Mike. I give people opportunity all the time, but what the difference maker is the determination. It's the plan and the determination that they actually use day to day to make it successful. So just to kind of recap there, coming in, you weren't looking for a loan, really. Certainly you would love one, but really to you, the most important part was building those relationships, building friendships, building that likability piece.
Yes.
Okay. So you knew what the gal at the front desk, what her favorite Starbucks coffee was. You knew what the broker's favorite football team was, and where so-and-so ate lunch, right? And really started to align people based on personalities and relationships to build those bonds.
Yep. You can't just show up for a weekly meeting. You can't show up for the monthly meeting. You have to just be there. And if you're allowed in, and if you can get in the door, you have to just keep coming. So every broker in town has a calendar that's well run. All you got to do is ask them for that calendar, ask them for what can I go to. And it was the small events. And I remember when you came to the wine and whiskey walk and I gave you no notice and you stopped what you were doing and drove 40 minutes and just showed up. It's things like that. We got dressed up for their Halloween, their trunk or treat. And Nate Bennett, Amber Romero, they had a nice setup, but all three of us were in costumes, and we had a competition, another lender there. And that's when we knew we had him. And it was in our business plan. Like by month 9, we wanted him out. And when he came as he didn't have a costume on. He came just to make sure that everyone knew he was there.
Yep.
Well, we knew at that point it was over because, I dressed up like an elderly woman. I was in a walker. They were dressed as Western people. And it's just putting in the effort. Like once you're there, make sure someone knows you're there. Meet one person, engage with them. People think it's just their presence. It's not. You have to make it felt. You have to engage, or you're wasting your time. So that's another thing, be efficient when you're there. Now talk to 3 or 4 people. You don't have to talk to 20. And that's what you do. And you do that every day. And then next thing you know, it's about relationships.
So you build that likability piece, which to me is critical in any kind of forming any relationship. So let's talk about what to me is the next step, which is the trust part of it. How did you build trust with those agents? Now, I know, and we talked a lot about this, you were not afraid to get in there, roll up your sleeves, and do kind of some of the dirty work, the heavy lifting, right? Whether that was hopping on a CRM, whether that's going to their scripts practices, which quite frankly, most guys at 23 years in the industry aren't going to do those sorts of things. That's something that I think was a real differentiator for you, is your ability to get in there and actually do the work. But talk to me about building that trust with those agents. Now you've aligned the right people, you sort of have people, connected. That next step, how do you go from there?
I feel like it's every agent's different, right? Some are just going to give you an opportunity. Some it'll take a little bit, and they'll wait for, hey, I just heard that you closed this loan for so-and-so agent. But I think that it's just doing what you say is on the loan portion. So what does a realtor want? They don't want to wait when they text you a lead. They want you to call it immediately. They want to be updated. So you do that a few times, then you get more leads. Then when you have one that turns into a loan, do you close the loan? And how was the process, right? They're not all good. So if you have a good process, then do you build off that? So the trust portion is like anything. That's the hardest part to build, right? Anybody will give you a chance. Anybody will open the door or call you when something goes bad. But do they trust you to give you their friends and family? And that's when you know you're in, is when the realtor is giving you their personal loans and opening up their book to you. So the trust portion was, closing their loans quickly at a good rate. And just as easy as you earn the trust, you can lose it too. So that's the one thing that we're still working on, right?
So you're right. The old saying, you're only as good as your last loan. And I think that rings true across any relationship. How did you stay on top of the business to ensure that when you did get that opportunity, that it was executed properly and that you really maximized that opportunity?
That's definitely a work in progress as well. I have good people around me. I have good people on a team. Everybody helps me in some way. If I get a lead, sometimes I need to send it to someone immediately because I'm not even going to remember it came in that day. So I depend on the people around me. Very old school. I use Outlook. Put in if I say I need to do something, and then I carry a legal pad around. And every day now I'm just writing because I'm saying yes. I like to just help. That's another thing of why this is so simple. Just help people. And if you keep helping people, within 30 days, you're busy. And so when someone asks me to do it, yeah, I'll do it. And I just keep making that list. Well, then you have a full day.
Yeah.
So that's really it. And things do fall through the cracks. So I tell people from the beginning, don't be afraid to call me again. Don't be afraid to text me again. If you don't hear from me, I need your help, right? Because I'm got a lot going on, and you want to work with someone that has a lot going on. We're better lenders because we've seen more. So I don't have the best process for the organization of it. I just try and do as much as I can every day.
Well, when you say you don't have the best process, maybe it's not the most technologically advanced, and maybe you're not using, AI to get you through your day, but ultimately, you've created a system that works for you and your team.
Yep.
Right. And like all of us, we're relying on the people that are around us to provide that support and kind of get us to that next level. But what would you say in all of that is the biggest challenge? So as you're now starting to get those opportunities, what's, and certainly you have to deliver, but in terms of continuing to build that with others in the office, what's the biggest challenge that you overcome there?
I think spreading myself too thin, right? Sometimes you lose focus in the task at hand because you're doing a little bit of everything. And I've got to refocus on just doing one thing good. My biggest issue right now is, I'll put 2 or 3 really small items to the side and they'll weigh on me the most. And I'll get up really early the next day and knock them out. But I didn't realize, that whole day I was weighted down because I had 20 minutes worth of work. So that's a procrastination thing with me where it's jumping on the task at hand, staying organized. That's probably my biggest difficulty. And then scaling it, growing it, because I don't want to grow too fast. I don't want to have the loan officers that are with me upset because I'm concentrating on someone else. Very loyal. I want to make sure that they know they come first. And I've tried to build around them too. Same with Keller. When I went in there, I wanted to originate a few loans, and then I quickly realized this is too big. It would require a huge team to be able to handle just them. And we're in 3 of their offices, counting the Water Street office.
That's right.
Too.
Yes.
So it was such a big project that, it took a little bit of time to even assess, right? I had the legal pad out the first month of writing people's names down and who they were. And then as a lender, I wanted to see behind the screen at Keller. I wanted to know what is with Keller people. I always thought of them as cultish, right? And so I went out and bought their book.
Yeah.
And it's like the Millionaire Real Estate Agent. So they drop these little nuggets about this book, and I know what they're talking about. So that first 3 to 6 months, I would come in and I'd listen to it on the way in there, and then I would drop something I read in the book, right? Don't be creative when you're just starting out. Someone's already done it for you. So take it, run with it, and then use your creativity down the road.
Yeah.
But that's that'd be like me setting up a website and me calling a web developer. Why would I do that when you guys have it all here with Bonzo?
Yep.
So little things. And then we're the same as them. We're salespeople. So I've probably learned more from them than they've learned from me. People like Rick Turley have taught me how to work a CRM, just observing them and then implementing it. And that's why I go back to that scripts. Every loan officer should be going to the scripts practices at these brokerages, because when you get there in the morning, you're going to make a relationship with the people that are there. They're either new, the trainers are very seasoned and know what they're doing. And then just that effort shows, well, he keeps coming. And, once I did get into Keller, it didn't just all of a sudden take off. And once I started showing up every day, it did.
Yeah.
So I go back to it really is simple. You just keep showing up.
So let's kind of regroup here a little bit. So, because I want to really make sure that we're kind of pounding on this process, because it has worked. So first 90, 120 days, it's all about just building quality relationships, gaining some trust, being likable, kind of getting through that process, not really looking for the business, hoping it comes, but really just sort of building that foundation.
Yep.
Then I see you start to, during that time and forward, you're getting involved, you're doing the work, you're getting kind of shoulder to shoulder with them, whether it's CRM, dialing for leads, whether it's getting into their scripts practices, those are sorts, and that gets you involved with them one-on-one, right? And as a group, exposing you to the team, getting you kind of you're part of them. And then you further that by reading the books that they're reading to really sort of further integrate yourself into their kind of the fabric of their culture.
Mm-hmm. Kellerized. And there's like I said, there's no blueprint. So you got to go in and assess it because they're not all going to be the same. But those first 3 months, I learned a lot of lessons. You'd see title companies that, one deal fell apart and they thought they were a business partner of Keller Williams and they threw a fit. So not having expectations that somebody owes you anything is how you got to look at it, because they already have the relationships, they already have the lenders. And so if you're going to earn it, the first 3 to 6 months we're getting to know these folks. The trust is built. Then they see you showing up, then they're going to give you a shot. And if someone doesn't give you a shot after you put in that much work, you can sleep pretty well at night knowing you did everything that you can.
So what would you say the one thing that you see others in our industry and maybe people here at AWM, what's the one mistake they made and something that they underestimate when they enter this type of a relationship?
That they're owed something, right? Just because they opened the door for you and let you in or invited you to a meeting doesn't mean really anything, right? Sometimes they just need presence there because they're trying to grow their brokerage. And there might be 5 or 6 lenders in that room, but what are you going to do when you're there? So I see people that don't use their time wisely. They think just going to an event or getting an invite means something. But I always, when I go to it, said I want to walk away with one connection. I want one person to remember me. I don't need 20 people to, and then you can focus on that one person. So just thinking that you're owed something.
Can you think of a time when you left whatever event or class or training, and you actually got a phone call directly thereafter or saw the direct impact of being there that particular day or for that particular event?
Sure. Actually, it was probably like 15 years ago. And I remember I used to just go to all of these events. And I believe I think it was Barry Habib was at it. And I went over to it and there was like 50 or 60 people in there. And I sat down next to a realtor and I left probably after 30 minutes. It was a 3-hour event. And I know that probably sounds bad. You should be listening to Barry Habib, but I was in full origination mode. And the connection was so good that she had a deal for me. I sat for 30 minutes, talked to one person, and that was my goal. So it was never to even listen to what Barry was saying. But I remember that, and then I started implementing that. I go, you know what? Why don't I do 2 or 3 of these a month?
Yeah.
Where I just show up and find one person. And it helped me focus too, because a lot of people don't know why they're going to these things. And I've used it since then.
Well, I think if you can make those initial connections and not that was a social setting, but it's different than walking into somebody's office and interrupting their day and trying to, hit them up for business. You're in a more casual environment and maybe people's guards are down in that respect. So certainly a great strategy and something that I've done many times in my career. I want to let's talk about your team a little bit. We spoke earlier, I think even before the conversation started here today, about the impact that your leadership is having on some of the people within your team. So let's talk a little bit about what is it that, when they see you in those environments where you're doing the work that maybe some managers won't do, talk about the impact that's having on them.
I've always believed in the team. I've always structured the branches as a team. I've provided LOA support and processing support as a team. So when someone has the goal of growth, I'm probably a good fit for them because I'm going to build around them. Every loan officer is different, but people within my branch right now are growing teams. So I will give anyone a shot for a team for 3 to 6 months of the support that they need. And then most of the time they're successful with it. So, in particular, Erin Stark, brought her old processor. So she needed kind of someone to take all of her files, help her with, someone that she had a relationship with in the past. And I just built it for her, right? I made her happy. I got her the support. And now she has an LOA as well. So she's building a team. Nate has a team with Amber and Drew. He's got, someone working the phones, the CRMs. He's got a LOA, which is Amber. And so really it's just building to what someone needs. I brought on Maggie Leathers and Liesel. They're a team. So nobody's really on their own.
That's a great concept.
And then Juan Carlos, I've worked with Juan Carlos since 2016, and he speaks Spanish.
Mm-hmm.
So, any office needs a great Spanish communicator and a great loan officer. So everyone within our branch uses him. So everybody's helping each other. They kind of realize they're not always the best fit. We lean on each other with products. Home Simple, right? I remember talking to Steven a year ago, and he was raving about Home Simple, and I thought, he's nuts. He's talking about hiring people. He's talking about everything went back to Home Simple. Well, I had an episode last week at Keller Williams, and I kept saying Home Simple. Every single person that wanted to talk, I went right to Home Simple or the bridge loan over and over. So we all depend on each other, and that's a team, right? I think that the more you communicate with each other, they're going to find out, there's a event over here, or wait a minute, we have a product that we never knew. And yeah, it's an open communication. Anybody can talk to anyone. Anyone's going to help whoever they can.
So I want to come back to that, because I want to acknowledge that type of leadership. I think that's excellent. And ultimately what you've done is first of all, you've identified, again, people aligning relationships with the agents, with the right people. But then the next step, which is probably just as important, is you've supported them properly. And I think that gets missed too often. We have a vision of how something should be done. We have our own kind of mindset as to, how we want to put people together. And ultimately, maybe it's not about us as leadership. Maybe it's about the people themselves, right? But before we kind of go down that road, I want to understand. So what are you looking for in that loan officer, whether it's Aaron or Nate? There has to be something, because I know I've been disappointed in the past where you've put someone in a position, put your trust and your faith in them. They really just didn't come through. So what is that you're looking for?
Really, it's it, right? You hear it in sports, they just have it.
Mm-hmm.
They just have it. And you can find, or you could meet the best loan officers in the craziest places. There's no formula, right? They don't have to be the smartest. They just have to have it. They don't want to fail. They want to close a lot of loans. Like, that's who I want to work with.
So there's certain personality traits that you're kind of keying in on and trying to identify.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, confidence. They're definitely a confident group. They're definitely a lot of A personalities. I'm finding are the top producers, and I've hired everyone, A, B, C, but I'm finding they just have it. They're going to get it no matter what, and it is hard to identify, but you can tell they have it. They might just be likable, really likable, and those people are going to bring in loans, or they just might have work ethic.
Yeah.
And same thing. Or they just might be constantly thinking, right? I know you've hired a few of these guys lately, and they're going to have it. They're going to, no matter what, be successful.
Yeah.
So,
but I think it's also putting them in the right environment too.
Yeah.
Because I know I've seen people come from other environments where they were not successful, and then all of a sudden you just put them into the right mix of opportunity with the right support, and you could sort of have magic at that point, right? That's where things really start to take off.
Yep. And, bringing up environment, we've been hybrid. We've been working out of different offices. We use Sunset. We go in to spend a majority of our time with realtors. And that's why when you say the word environment, I would say the environment I'm providing is I'm opening doors to realtors, right? I now have keys to come meet any realtor you want. And if you get 3 or 4 great ones, you could be busy for the rest of your career. And I think that's the environment I'm providing is I have realtor connections that need to be met. And every LO has the opportunity to take those on and see if they're a good fit for them. So
Yeah.
that's my environment right now, because it's not a physical environment. And then, yeah, we brought on some good support, processing support, Shannon, Wendy, Jessica, Edmia. So like that as well is in the environment, but it's not physical. And I'm used to having a physical space. I that's in the works to get back there, because I think that business is done better, but it has fit. And adaptability, right? You have to adapt. It changes, from one year to the next, whether you should be in a space, maybe you should be out on the road.
Yep.
I've always adapted and changed and realized there isn't one way. I'm not always right. And that's another lesson that I tell people is you can do it your way. There's not like my way is not the right way. My way works for me. I'm able to get up every day and do my way. Find what that is for you, because this is not rocket science, right? I'm not a surgeon. All I'm doing is answering my phone when it rings. So whatever you can do to be in a position to be able to do that, do it. Whether it's from a vacation home, whether it's from an RV, whether you need to be in an office with 3 other people doing it at the same time.
Yeah. I think as we wrap this up, it's important to point out the things that we've covered here. There's no magic pill. There's no silver bullet here. This is all about really thought processes and mindsets that have been around for a long time. They're things that I did. They're things that you've been doing for years, but you're doing them. You're walking into these offices. Your expectations are reasonable. You're not there feeling as if you're owed anything. It's really earning the business, building relationships the right way, and maximizing the opportunity. So congratulations to that. And hopefully we've given our viewers here something to think about. Again, I think this is an area of the business that we need to do much better at. And hopefully they've learned something from you here today.
Thank you. And I'd like to just thank you and All Western for the opportunity. I don't think I could do that. And I haven't done this at other banks. So I'm forever grateful for you guys for everything you provide here, from opportunity to the tech to the products, because I think this is the best place to work. And I'm not just trying to kiss your ass, pardon my language. I really do. So without All Western, it wouldn't be possible.
Well, this has been a great partnership for both of us then. So again, Mike, thanks for joining me today.
Thank you.
All right.